Today's video, we're going to talk about e-commerce growth rate. How fast can you scale an e-commerce company using paid advertising? Online paid advertising to be specific, Google ads, Facebook ads, Pinterest ads, wherever you're planning on advertising. And in fact, it should be every single place that makes sense that can get you a return on investment. You usually start out with Google ads, and then once that's working, you use that runway that you've given yourself to try to get another platform working and another, as well as different types of campaigns within Google ads. But with that said, there's a process of scaling to millions of dollars that we've went through with our clients at our firm. And I'm not just saying that to brag, it's just most people's idea of growing an e-commerce business is they're going to set up this e-commerce business, they're going to find that ad that's going to make them millions, and then boom, they're going to be rich. And it doesn't work that way 99.9% of the time. There's reasons for that I'm going to talk about in today's video. Now, that said, anybody can do it. If you've got a product that is competitive in the marketplace, in terms of quality, in terms of price, and you want to put the time and effort in to set up the ads the correct way and have the patience to use your whatever progress you have at the given time to get to the next level, and then to the next, and to the next, and to the next. I'm going to talk about that specifically in today's video so you understand what this process is, what you're getting into, and what's reasonable so you don't make the mistake what most people make, which is, it's not working yet. And then they just screw up their entire progress by thinking that the grass is greener on the other side of the fence, and they make a change, which then they say, that screwed something up. I need to make more changes to my business. And then they unravel everything they had. Good result that lead to make you a freaking millionaire down the road is a lot of making small changes, waiting, more small changes, waiting, and doing that over years to build up to that big overall result. 3, 5, 7 years down the road, of which you will know you're on track if you're hitting certain levels of growth rate per month that we know after auditing a few dozen of our accounts what your basic average is going to be as you go through this process for yourself. So I'm not only going to explain what this process is a little bit more in detail that I just described, more importantly what the growth rate is so you know if you're actually on track. People not understanding the exponential growth. Ultimately, when you start out your company and you only get a 10% growth in your sales from one month to the next, and you go from 1,000 to 1,100 a month in sales, it really makes you think, what am I doing wrong? And really, there's nothing wrong, because if you would have had that same 10% growth rate month over month, by year 7, you're a freaking millionaire. But people don't want to wait. They want it now. I want it right freaking now. And then as a result of that, like I was saying before, I see it all the time. They'll sabotage their own success in order to get the results much, much sooner, as if everybody gets that and there's something wrong with them if they don't have that, and then they screw up everything up and they never get to the point where they can actually get anything done at the end of the day. If it were that easy to just set up an e-commerce website and then just because you're an ad genius, you can get millions of dollars of results in 3 months, I would be a freaking billionaire already, because I run ads every day. It takes years to build up the results. And there's very good reasons for that, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It just means that it's going to take some time, and that time that it takes eliminates 90+% of the people that will never be successful because they want it now. And they don't want to wait. They want it now. And if they don't want it, if they can't get it now, they don't want it at all. You just got to be the person who puts the work in and realizes it's a long-term process, but it's going to work if you put that work in. So I'm going to go into detail, like I said, on all those things and what kind of growth rate you should be getting. In fact, though, that you should be growing faster earlier on in the process, and it gets slower and slower as you go along. But it's fine, because smaller percentage gains when you're already selling a lot is actually, it's more actual volumetric revenue growth than when you started. With that said, before I get into it, if you don't know who I am, I'm Corey Zyman, owner of Guaranteed PPC, an online advertising agency that specializes in guaranteeing results for their clients. That is, more profit before paying management fees, with the idea being that we do not charge you until the management fee that we charge is offset by the sales growth and profit growth, which tell you something about the quality of the information that I'm sharing with you on today's video. So with that said, getting into the content of everything I was about ready to discuss, I have here basically mapped out what your typical, if you're trying to get into doing e-commerce or you've been doing it for a while, to know if your ads that you're trying to run for your business, which for e-commerce businesses, you got to get good at doing paid ads because you're not going to be able to make things work trying to rank organically itself by itself most of the time, unless you have like no competition. If you have heavy competition, you got to be able to do ads, and you got to be able to do ads better than your competition. That's the differentiator on whether your whole business is going to work. And if you want to add that, plus know how to make a website that converts users into customers at a high rate, that's the other skill. Everything else can be outsourced and replicated pretty easily when you do those two things right. So if you want to know if the ads are set up right and just what to expect and how this is supposed to work, as I mentioned, I've got your results, that is specifically your growth rate you should be at each respective stage of the process. Typically, to get to when you're starting out, if you want to get to where you're making close to $1 million a year income, that's going to take 7 to 10 years of scaling up that e-commerce business. If you're starting out with $10,000 to start your e-commerce business and you have the bare bones everything, and you have like basically $500 a month to spend on ads at the beginning, it's going to take you 10 years. If you start out with more money, you can get it down to 5 to 7, but you would need to have 100 grand or 200 grand to start with. The more you have when you start out, the quicker you're going to get to that goal of $1 million a year income, which anybody can get if you just put the work in to set up the ads better than your competition. Because the ad systems are looking for the advertisers that are going to help their users better than the other advertisers that are there, because they want people to click on ads more in the future, especially Google. And so you just set things up, you wait, and you also have to wait for the money to come in as well, which is a big part of this. With that said, if you're starting out, your typical growth rate when you're starting, at least at the bottom, you're not starting out with $1 million initial seed investment. You're starting out with that 10 or 20,000, whatever it is. You should be able to get about 10% sales growth a month. And that is overall sales growth at your company. Cart sales plus any phone sales that come in. But once you get about a year into the process, you should be at about 5% growth rate in your sales revenue and gross receipts a month. And the reason for that is because as you go into this process of becoming a millionaire running ads for your business, you actually have to go after harder and harder opportunities as you go along, okay? The obvious places to advertise when you're starting out, the people that are the most certain buyers, there's only so many of those opportunities out there. For instance, if you're selling pottery wheels, the best keyword to go after would be buy 4 horsepower pottery wheel. Why? Because somebody who types that in is almost certainly going to be a customer. And if you sell a 4 horsepower pottery wheel specifically, it's pretty hard to not get that traffic to work, because now you just have to convince them that you have the best 4 horsepower pottery machine. And if so, they're going to buy it from you. And it's easy to make your product more convenient to buy than anybody else's, because all your competition isn't going to want to set an ad up for that person making that specific of search, which is where I say anyone can become a millionaire running ads for their business, because most people are freaking lazy. They want to put the bare minimum in of work to get the results, and you just have to do a little bit more work than them, assuming it's smart work, and you watch this channel and you understand the strategies that work, and you can make it work for yourself. But those low-hanging fruit opportunities only last so long. Then you have to go into advertising, and generally speaking, even if you're targeting the same keywords, it takes time. At the beginning, Google's system is going to understand who's the real buyers. They are going to have to stretch to find more buyers for you if you're using smart bidding and so on and so forth. So 5% a month is typical the year 2 after looking at about a dozen ad accounts where I did this audit at our firm. Then 2 to 4 years in, you should be more so at like a 3% growth rate a month. 4 to 7 years in, you should be down to like a 2% growth rate a month if you're doing things ideally. 7 to 10 years in, you should be at 1.5% growth rate a month. And then if you're at 10 plus years already, or you've already been doing it in a decade already, you should be at about a 1.25% growth rate a month, which equals out to about 20% growth rate a year. Okay? So, which 20% a year is still good. It's worth doing. You're beating whatever return you could have that money doing for you in the stock market. For most people that don't know how to do picking stocks, which if you want to know the key on that, that's just investing in any of the stocks that the corrupt politicians invest in. and you'll make double what everybody else makes and with their stock picks, which is something that I'm going to do when I retire. So with that said, that gives you a general frame of reference to know, is it working and should you panic? Okay, if you're not making this, you should panic. Or if you are, you shouldn't unravel your strategy or change what you're doing, given the problem is when you make changes on these main ad platforms, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, it changes the results you're getting. You have to be very cognizant about the results that you get, the big result you want. It's a series of making a small change, waiting, making a small change, waiting. So you don't disrupt the algorithm that's gotten you this far and take you back before you go forward, or just derail the results you built up to then altogether. The reason why, other than the obvious places where you can get the highest return are taken sooner in the process, that why your growth is going to slow down itself is it takes in a business that you have to get repeat sales from your customers. You sell clothing. A big part of the revenue you get is going to be from repeat business. It takes time to get the lifetime value out of a customer, which keeps people out of businesses like that more than anything. Because the people that are the entrenched players in that market already are sitting fat and happy, and they're making 75% of the money they're making at any given time from repeat buys from their current customers. And they have that going for them at all times when they're trying to get new customers. That is, they have a better website that will outcompete you because they have revenue that's already been coming in from before, and it's really hard to get in. If you're in a business that has repeat business, you have to realize you're not going to get a return right away, and there's a period of time that you're going to have to wait from the time someone becomes an initial customer till you get the return on investment out of them. And it might be 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever. But when everybody else that's bidding for the same customers are valuing the customer for what they're worth over the lifespan of that customer's purchases, and you're valuing them for only the initial purchase, it's going to be damn hard to make that work. And generally speaking, if you're in a market like that and you expect that, you're never going to get anywhere. Because if it were that easy to just sell a t-shirt to somebody, initially make enough money to sell a second t-shirt, and if that person goes on to buy any more, that's just free, everybody would be a freaking millionaire. With that said, those type of businesses are tricky because you're, again, going up against people who already have a certain mass of customers built up. If you're trying to sell, for instance, even like skincare products, like acne cream, in that market, it takes an average of 7 months of reoccurring purchases before they ever recoup their money on what it took to spend in ad spend to get that customer in the first place, is what I heard before. You got to just keep this in mind. And because it takes time to get money from your customers, you can only grow so quickly. If you increase your ad spend too aggressively, you're going to run out of gunpowder. You're going to run out of funds to keep that high level of ad spend going because the money comes in on a time delay. This happens all the time in B2B services as well, like in our own firm. A client starts out paying a couple grand a month. I've got to wait an average of 2 years to get what I am average going to get out of a client. Well, that means I can only grow the advertising of our business to get clients so quickly. It's all on a delayed fuse in terms of scaling the business up. So that's the main reason why, if you sell to repeat customers, why you can only grow so quickly in this whole process. You got to get a customer, wait a whole bunch of time. Once you eventually collected a whole bunch more money from that customer, you can finance the next customer. And then you get the next customer, and then you have to wait. And you have to do that again and again and again. And because of that, you're only going to grow 10% a month, no matter how good you are, typically. The other thing is, even if you don't have to wait for customers to give you their money, like you get it all in one lump sum, I can tell you from personal experience in markets like that, it's even a lot of times even harder to break in because everybody wants in a market like that where they can sell and boom, instantly make a huge sale, boom, make a huge profit margin, selling something for $1,000, $2,000, selling something for $500. Nobody wants to sell to a customer and then have to expect to do a good enough job to sell to them 5 more times. Otherwise, I'm not going to get my ad spend back from what it cost me to get them in the first place. So you got markets where you could sell to them once and then immediately make money, people piling in those markets. And because people pile in those markets, because that business model is simple, if you will, as compared to the repeat customer business model, it takes a long time to gain a data advantage over your competitors. And you have to have money to gather data. I talked about the algorithms that these ad platforms run on primarily a little bit earlier in this video. So whether it's Google, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok ads, wherever you're running these ads on these main ad platforms, all the ads run off an algorithm, just like the organic results are. You got to advertise usually on these platforms for a while to build up enough data in your campaigns just to get it to break even. It's very common in our firm. Well, if we want to start running ads on Facebook, and after we get Google working, we'll have to run ads on Facebook for like 3 to 6 to 9 months just to hit break-even profitability on our ads, because we got to pay to gather data to know what works and what doesn't work, whereas only 5-10% of it works, but you can't know where the 5 to 10% is until you've spent that money. And because you have to spend money at a loss to get the new channel working, you need money from the channel that is already working, be working for a while, you've saved, or that you're going to spin off, let's say 5% of the ad spend you were spending on the working channel to spend on the one that is speculative, and then run that for a while before it works so that you could take the money from that channel to invest in TikTok, let's say, and then do that for 6 to 12 months before it ever gets to break even. And you have to keep doing this over and over again, knowing that each platform, each channel, each campaign type that you run within these platforms are going to take a certain amount of time just before they even break even. And then on top of it, you need more. The more data you have, the better the campaigns work, the more they scale. And you're only going to be able to acquire the data so fast without going into a negative ROI situation. So therefore, you can only grow the top line sales so quickly. And unless you're in a market with like no competition, you're not going to find a situation where you run one ad and it has such a high return you can double the ad spend like every 2 months. If you are in a market where everybody wants what you have and nobody else can sell it, yes, you can do that. But if you're in a market where there's legitimate other players, there's lots of other options, you got to do what everybody else does that gets it to work, which is you spend, you wait, you optimize the hell out of your ads, you figure out a way to make it work, then you take the money from that to do something new, and then something new, and something new, and something new. And over 7 years, you got 100 campaigns running all at once, each one that contributes a certain percentage of your revenue as a whole to your company. And in a lot of ways, they actually work together. People that find you on Facebook, later on when they go search for it on Google, they're more likely to click on your Google ad. Or people that searched you on Google, later on, they didn't buy right away, but when they're, thinking about it still as to who they're going to go with, they see your ad on Facebook. Because of that ad, they're likely to buy it. And so you're omnipresent. And as a result of that, the sum of all these ads actually work together to get you the big overall result, and more on each one than you could have got on, with any one channel individually on its own. So because of you can only gather data so quickly, you can only scale the ad spend so quickly, otherwise your ROI is going to go negative, and then you're just going to run out of money and your business is going to collapse. You can only grow your top line revenue of your company so quickly. So unless you're basically prepared, I want to say this. You have 2 options to run your e-commerce business, okay? You could spend more money and time to figure out a product that's at least 10 times better than all the competition in your space. And then when you go to market with it, you can scale your ads quickly because it's way better than anything else. But you'll have to spend a lot of time in doing prototyping and everything else. Or you could take a product that's average and just be better at running ads. And being better at running ads than your competitors, when they already have their ads running for a long time and they already have gathered a lot of data on you already, you not only have to have an ad that's better, but you also have to catch up in terms of the data advantage. Advertising, collecting data in your account with the tracking set up to know where the customers are in your market, where they're not, and to not make the stupid mistakes your competitors have learned not to make through the time of running their ads. So to say, you got to pick a poison. You could spend a few years to build a really incredible product and then market it, and the marketing is easy, or you can market a product you can easily get your hands on today and spend years building up the data in your ad accounts in order to be successful with it. But there's no free lunch. You're going to have to pick whatever path you want there, but it's on a progressive kind of stage. Like, we've got Google search campaigns and shopping campaigns we put together for clients when we first started this firm 10 years ago, and they're still growing in sales every year because we're gathering just a little bit more data in the account every year, and more data and more data. And because we've got more data in our ad account than we had the previous year, the results are just that we're going to keep scaling at the ROI we need more and more and more. It's just you'll get diminishing returns on that data. The data that you get up front, having a tiny bit of data and then, twice as much data than you had the first week by having 2 weeks with the data versus 1, you get a big increase in results from that versus having 9 years worth of data versus 10 years. You see how this mathematically makes sense, how you would technically get less of a sales growth as you go along, given that the percentage of data that you're going to have added to your bottom line and your campaigns is going to be less over time, not more. That all said, this video is here to let you know that it takes patience and a lot of work to become a millionaire running your ads for your e-commerce business. You can make a better product and marketing is easy. If you're not taking that approach, it's setting up your ads better than your competition, so your ad and your website converts better than your competition, spending money, know it won't work for a while, eventually get it to an ROI, then being patient and letting the data build up in your account enough to get to the next stage with your ads, and that's how fortunes are basically made. And you may only make $100,000 a year income for the first 5 to 7 years, but it's worth it when you get to the end of the process. You can make $1 million a year. And in fact, I tell people all the time at my firm, and I think you guys that run e-commerce businesses probably already know this. That is, it makes no sense whatsoever to start an e-commerce business and just to be a small guy, so to say. You either keep your e-commerce business small, that is, you're making less than $100,000 a year and it's a hobby business, that you can run it all yourself and you don't have to have a boss, you're basically self-employed, or you get it up to where you're making at least $3 million a year in sales. You can't afford to hire competent managers. You can try to hire managers, you're going to cuss them out, you're going to hire another one. Because you can't pay them very much or what a good, knowledgeable, good manager is worth, they're going to screw it up again. And then eventually you're just going to be like, oh, so I'm going to go back to being small. It doesn't work. With all the overhead to get things to run independently of you, that is, you can hire high enough caliber people to run it all, to answer the phone, hiring a good phone salesperson. You have to be at least $3 million a year just to make it work. And ideally, $5 to $10 million a year to make it work. And so what you're really doing at the beginning, once you've gotten past the point where you actually can hire some help, people packing the boxes, whatever, it's just a race to get to the 3 million. It's going to be like hell from 100,000 to 3 million, but you just do as much as you can with making your ads better to speed this process up as much as you possibly can, given it's always going to be slow, mostly no matter what. Get from 100,000 to 3 million in 3 years, which is about how long it's going to take. Then you're home free. Then you could hire good people and they legitimately will take the last of what you've been doing from you till eventually you're just the owner of the business. You're like the founder investor person. And you can also sell it at that point in time. You can't sell an e-commerce business that's doing $500K a year or not certainly for what you wanted to sell it for. With that said, if you think you should be doing more or you're not doing as much of this, as I mentioned in terms of growth rate, reach out to me at my firm at guaranteedppc.com. I can tell you in a few minutes, looking at your situation, what you should be getting truly, and could let you know what we could guarantee in terms of results. As I mentioned, that's what we do here at our firm. Similar to that, if we've already worked in your niche market, we could tell you the results we got in it already because we've worked in over 100 niche markets and the chances are high we've already done either what you're doing directly or similar and can give you that information on what you should get that way. If we've worked in your niche market, we could sell you a template that works to sell that item. As long as you're going to sell it in an area that our client's not in, it's fair game to use that. And we got people that use these templates to start other e-commerce businesses even. They wanted to get into selling another item. They picked a template from our list of different markets and different items that we've sold before. They copy paste those ads into their ad account. They started building it up and they had the framework. They didn't have to be an ad expert to make the business work basically. If you're interested in any of those opportunities there, you can also reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com. And you can always leave me, by the way, a question in the comment section below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel, usually within 24 hours. To sum this up here, so to say, results at the end of the process where you're only growing 20% a year is okay because you're already going to be making $10 million a year in sales already. Or let's say at least $5 million a year when you're growing 20%, you're going from $5 million to $6 million in a year. It's better than going from 100,000 to 200,000 a year. So you grow faster percentage-wise at the beginning, but it's less impressive because it's a small amount top line that you're actually growing, whereas later on, you're going lower percentage-wise in terms of sales, but it matters a lot more because volumetrically wise, it matters more. It's a higher amount. So where people get screwed up is when they're here in the year 1, year 2, They want it to happen sooner, and they'll take a good thing and they'll screw it up. They want to short circuit the system, and they think running ads is like a light switch, baby. Oh, let's turn on these ads. Oh, it works. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, shut it back off. Oh, let's try this thing over here. Let's turn it on. Oh, it doesn't work. Let's shut it back off. It doesn't work that way to promote an e-commerce business anymore on these main platforms. Yeah, if you want to run a banner ad, a direct banner ad buy on an e-commerce website, which is like a forum that's related to the niche you're in, yes, that should work right away because there's no algorithm behind it. It's there and it's either going to get people to click through and buy or it's not. That's what people are stuck in, that 1980s thinking and how advertising works. These ad platforms are run off of algorithms now. It doesn't work that way anymore. And it takes data for algorithms to know how to get you sales on a high level, on a millions a year level, so to say. You got to pay to play. With that said, if you want to know all the tricks to be able to outdo your competition, because like I said, if you can just have better ads and better website conversion rates than your competition, you can always make this work. You can always get these kind of numbers. Subscribe to this channel because I have all the information you need to be able to do that on this channel. And it comes from somebody who spends 40 hours a week doing ad strategy at her firm. Most of these different people on YouTube that you're going to learn from otherwise, they don't actually run any ads. I promise you, most people don't. They just talk about it. Or they run a couple ads. They really don't know anything. They're not in the trenches doing ad strategy 40 hours a week like I am. Therefore, if you want to pay attention to something that you know is reliable, you want to pay attention to the information on this channel, so you should subscribe if you aren't already. You should also take a look and consider looking at my blog. My blog actually has even better information on it. I lay out the strategies that we use to guarantee results for clients at our firm there, and you can actually get a lot of value there as well. So that's at guaranteedppc.com/blog. You can find that information as well. Beyond that, that pretty much sums up everything I wanted to say in terms of e-commerce growth rates. There are cases where you can break through these growth rates. We've gotten lucky at times. Sometimes with the algorithms, they find a groove and the sales will just explode. But that is, I can tell you percentage-wise, less than 5% of the time. You want to be able to you want to assume the worst is going to happen in business if you want to survive, not assume the best case scenario is always going to happen. But like anything else in life, you could try to take the diet pill and maybe it will work, or you could just get off your lazy butt and put the work in and it's always going to work. It's really the case as it comes to running ads. If you want to know where you're stuck at, is the problem of the ads or is it something else? I've been offering coaching to you guys that have been watching this channel. In a 30-minute coaching session, I can tell you by looking at your website, your business, your ads, everything, and let you know where the bottleneck is. We've had people that I've coached already recently since I started doing this. Every single one, it was immensely helpful for them because a lot of you guys think it's just the ad that's the problem. It's really the website or the pricing strategy or whatever. So if you're interested in that, you can also reach out to me easily at my firm at guaranteedppc.com. With that said, I'll wrap everything up with that though. Thank you very much for watching as usual, and I'll see you in the next one.
Remember when I said running ads was important during this video? Well, this video here tells you how to do it.